a little bit about breathing. So first of all, everybody, if you can, go get a piece of paper, like printer paper, like an 8 by 11 inch piece of paper, and a pen or pencil, and something to lean on. And I'll give you a sec to go find that and come on back. Okay. So fold the paper long ways in half, like that. It doesn't have to be, totally even or anything. We're not going to cut the paper, so you don't have to have a sharp line. We're going to have the paper cut and then straighten it back out again, so you kind of know where the midline is. So we work with the midline a lot, and now we're going to work with the midline of a piece of paper. And then you're going to place it down on something, to lean on, so that you have a little bit of support. And you can do this sitting at a desk like Ruth is, or you can do this on the floor, however is comfortable for you. And we're going to draw the breath. So this is just the first thing that we're going to do. So the midline of the paper is going to be our starting point, and start over at the left. So like you're drawing a picture. And what we're going to do is we're going to go draw up, never leaving contact with the pen on the paper. When we inhale, we're going to draw up. And when we exhale, we're going to draw down. And then we're just going to, like do along the paper. So I'm going to have you do this once, and then we're going to do a little breath exercise, and then we're going to do this again. Okay. So this is from a book called Draw Breath. It's called Draw Breath. And there's all these somatic exercises within it to help you learn your breath. So the cool thing about drawing the breath is that, the breath is this thing we do all day, every day of our lives, but it's something we experience on the inside. We can't really see it on the outside. And so this gives us like a visual cue of what our breath is looking like. So the midline of the paper is where we begin. And when you inhale, you're rising up, and then when you exhale, your pen's coming down. So we'll just do it for 1 minute. I'll set a timer, and just go ahead and close your eyes. This is important. Close your eyes when you're doing this, so you're not, let your breath guide. Let your breath guide. And there's no rights or wrongs. You're not trying to make it look any certain way. There's no test that you're going to show me your design. I'm going to tell you all about your astrological history or your future or anything like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a deep breath in and a deep breath out, and close your eyes and begin. Yes, hold paper horizontally, Ruth. So across the paper. All right, and let's stop. Open your eyes and go ahead and just look at your drawing. Notice, I didn't do it because I was paying attention to the time, but if anyone wants to show their paper and just kind of see, actually don't show it yet because we're going to do it again in a minute. All right, so now put your paper aside for a moment and sit up straight and tall. And, come into a comfortable position so that your spine has space, so that your legs are comfortable, you have a grounding in your pelvis. The way we often begin our yoga practice. I'm throwing you for a loop today with drawing exercises, but just come into your body. Now there's, 3 main ways we can breathe. I mean, there's lots of subtleties to that, but notice if you're a high chest breather, if kind of the energy climbs up to your neck and shoulders. Or notice if you're a very big belly breather where you kind of collapse your belly forward and there's a lot of release downward. And remember, there's no, I'm not talking about what's right or wrong. It's just variations on a theme. So that might be called belly breathing, and the other one might be called chest breathing. You can call them whatever you want. And then this middle way that really is a good, healthy way of breathing if we can manage it. It's called Thoraco diaphragmatic breathing, where we have the movement of the diaphragm like we had in belly breathing, but there's some support through our core. So our transverse abdominis is helping us along the way. So when we do this, we're going to have a little practice technique. And most of you have done this with me before, but it's called the Hulu Breath. So you're going to inhale through your nose normally, naturally. And then as you exhale, purse your lips. And you don't have to say the word who, but make, like a wind sound, like. As you breathe out through pursed lips. And just keep this pattern going. This is called the Hulu breath. Notice your transverse abdominis, that deep abdominal muscle that supports the spine. Are you feeling a little bit of engagement where you have your diaphragm moving? You have a little support around your core on the exhales. The inhales release that and let it go. So there's this wave, not just in the in and out of the breath and the up and down of the diaphragm and the in and out of the rib cage, but there's also this release and engagement and release and engagement through the deep core muscles, specifically your transverse abdominis, that corset that wraps around your whole torso from pubic bone to sternum, wrapping around the back. So on those who exhales, can you feel subtle? This is not like strong belly. This is just subtle support. Slowing the exhales down. Pursed lips naturally slows the exhales down. And if you want to, you can put your fingertips, finger pads on your hip bones and kind of move into the flesh of your belly a little bit more. And pay attention to what you feel. Notice if there's any part of your belly that overgrips. Notice if there's a part of your belly that undergrips, not grips, but under engages. And then let's go back to some regular breathing. If your eyes closed, you can open them up. Move your spine a little bit, free yourself up. We're almost done being in this horizontal or a seated position. I notice, Ruth, you've laid down. That's awesome. So whatever allows you to do this is good. But we're going to go back to drawing. So now sit up if you aren't. So we're going to pick up where we left off. So put your pen at the horizontal, right at the midline. So we're holding the paper on the landscape versus, this plane. We're on the landscape plane. And we're going to start at the midline of the paper again. Close your eyes. And this time, find your seat, find your spine. And we're going to do the Hulu breath while we draw as well. So drawing on the upswing on the in-breath and on the downswing on the out-breath. And here we go. 1 minute here. Deep breath in, deep breath out. Let's go ahead and begin. Hulu breath. So slowly breathe out through pursed lips. Match the drawing to what your breath experience is. It's okay if you run off the page, but unless, of course, you don't want to draw on your whatever, your table or your floor, but let the pen kind of follow the breath. All right, and then let's stop. Open your eyes, and then go ahead and see if your piece of paper, see what, see what the difference is between the two drawings. If anybody wants to kind of show their picture to the crew, notice if there's a big difference in the pacing of your breath, in the depth of your breath, if there's a change. Nice, everybody. If there's a change in your inhales or exhales. Notice if you count the bumps on the first round versus the second round, if you breathe slower or faster. Just try to pay attention. So there's, like I said, there's no test and there's no right or wrong way of breathing or drawing. It's just nice to have a visual representation of what your breath is doing. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and come to rest on our back. So we're going to work with the transverse abdominis today in practice. And if you're unfamiliar, I think you're all familiar with this muscle, but if you're unfamiliar, it wraps horizontally around your torso from the back of your body, along, that big fascial band along your low back, and wraps around your whole torso to the linea alba, which is this ligament, very strong fibrous tissue in the center line of your belly. And it's like, of course, it attaches onto your ribs, it attaches onto the backside of your pelvis, it attaches onto your pubic bone. So it's a very good muscle. It holds your organs in. Its primary job is to stabilize your core and keep your organs from splaying out all over the place. So as you lie down on the ground, bend your knees for a moment and just breathe here. And you can put your hand anywhere along your belly so that you can feel into this sense of exploring this muscle. On the inhale, can you let things go? And on the exhale, so gentle. We're not trying to, hug our navel to our spine super intensely. We can do that with the transverse abdominis when we need deep core support. We can use our organs against our spine like a trellis of support against our spine. But when we're just lying here, we don't need that much support. So let's just enjoy the in and the out breath. Do you have trouble letting your muscles go on the in-breath? Do you have trouble with full engagement on the exhales? Do you do some reverse stuff where you kind of pull it in while you breathe in instead of pulling it in while you breathe out? So just start to explore your breath. Close your eyes if you can. And then we're going to turn this into some movement. So take a deep breath, stretch your limbs, stretch your arms long, reach the arms, the left side, reach the right side. See if you can kind of climb a little bit, opening up through your limbs, like any kind of movement that wants to come. And then bring your knees into your chest and rock a little bit, soothe the back. And then let's open the knees up away from each other and swing them back in. Open them up and swing them back in. Just get that sense of lubricating the femur bones in the hip joints a little bit, feeling that they can wake into some rolling movements. All right, and then come into some starfishes. Expand your body out all the way to your fingers and your toes. Stretch. And then exhale, knees in. Chest comes up. One more time. Expanding out, fingers and toes. Exhale, drawing back in. One last time. Bring yourself open. Exhale. Close yourself up. Let's come rolling over onto our side and come up onto your hands and your knees. All right, so smooth your spine around. It does not have to be just be cat-cows, and it can very much just be cat-cows. Just whatever kind of movement comes to you. Try to let the body direct instead of the mind. Let the mind live in the cells of your body a little more thoroughly. Come into your felt experience instead of your thought experience. How is your breath? All right. Let's come back down to child's pose. Settle the hips toward the heels. Walk those hands out if you want. If they're not happy out, you can put them somewhere else. Feel free to move a little bit. Feel free to be still. Relax your neck. Deep breath. Let's walk our hands over to the other side. Feel that length stretch to open up the rib cage. See, it's hard to stretch your transverse abdominis. See if you can feel the space from your ribs to your pelvis open up a little bit. And then come back, walking out the other side. Come into the breath as deeply as you can. Relax the neck, especially if you tend to be a chest breather. Sometimes dropping down into the body can be very soothing. Chest breathing tends to correlate with a lot of thinking. It can lead into anxiety. So when we drop lower in our body, we can drop away from that kind of energy. Let's come onto all fours again. Inhale, lift that arm all the way up in the sky. Exhale, slide the shoulder under and enjoy what's happening in your spine. Breathe into the back side of the shoulder blades. And then inhale, reach that arm all the way up again, hand down onto the ground, second side. Deep breath. Exhale, slide that arm through. Full inhales, full exhales. Let the neck relax. Breathe deeply. Inhale, reach that arm all the way up in the sky. Place the hand down and find dog pose. Stretch through your limbs. Walk around with your hands and your feet. You can pedal, any kind of waking movement where you're getting to know yourself. You can yield into one limb and then rebound and yield into another. Whatever feels lovely in your body. Waking yourself up, getting the whole back line to expand. Relax the base of the skull. And then walk your feet forward and come into Uttanasana. Once again, feel free to shake. You want to shake your shoulders, shake your neck, bounce, shake your hips. Let's come into that Hulu Breath if we can. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale. Slow your movements down. Push off your feet. Rise up. Exhale, hands to your heart. Inhale, open up. And then exhale, hands back to your heart. Slow those exhales down. Tip your feet forward. Come onto your toes. Feel your belly kick in just a little bit into gear. And roll back. Feel your core tip into gear. All right, and then we're going to do some circles with the hips. So soften your knees so you're not locked out and just circle the hips in one big circle this way and then one big circle the other way. Let your knees soften. Try not to lock yourself out. All right, and then if you were with me the other day when we did some of these cross-lateral works and the pelvic rotations, feet are hip width apart or a little bit wider, whatever feels good to you, and we're just going to go back and forth. So let the pelvis move. Okay, so the hand rolls back and then the hand rolls forward. And each side doing their thing. Let the, we're trying to loosen up the rib cage, the core of the body, the pelvis, the low back. So, remember when you're doing these spirals, you want your pelvic half to kind of spiral a ring around your foot and then spiral a ring around your other foot. So if you're not sure, look at what I'm doing for a minute. So you're just spiraling half your pelvis over that foot and then half your pelvis over the other, and then add the arms. And just let your spine loosen. Are you breathing? Close your eyes if you want. Weight into one foot. Feel the yielding. Weight into the other foot. And then shake out the hands. Bounce a little bit. Just feel into your spine. Jiggle things around. And then we're going to reach up one side, open up the side of the body. Back to center, reach up, open the other side of the body. And then come back. Move through vinyasa. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, bend deeply. Inhale for a halfway lift. Long Hulu Breath. Step your right foot back. Left foot comes forward on the mat. Blocks are great if you want them. Feel and extend the spine. Breathe deeply in, breathe deeply out. And then square the hips, straighten the leg, tuck the chin. Your leg doesn't have to go all the way straight. Move with breath. Let's come into a lunge. Rise up, reach those arms to the sky. Feel the extension. Try not to collapse in the lumbar spine. Open the neck, let it relax. The base of the skull is soft. Slide the shoulders down. Feel the weight of your legs. Reach into the opening of your spine. Exhale, hands down, back foot comes forward. Fold in half. Inhale, halfway lift. Long Hulu Breath out. Step your other foot back. Right foot is forward, left foot is back. Feel your lunge. We're just waking ourselves up, coming into the body, coming to your felt sense of your body. And let's straighten the leg a little bit, tuck the chin. Go through the movement of bending your knee and straightening your leg a little bit with breath. So we're not going anywhere without feeling your breath come for the ride. Press your feet down, yield, drop weight, rise up. Okay, arms go anywhere. They do not have to be up in the air. They can be anywhere. Okay, so find what supports you the best. Feel the extension of the spine, the openness of the hip flexors and the chest. Take some deep breaths here. Try to maintain breathing through your nose on the inhales, maybe some Hulu breathing on the exhales. Find your way. Release the hands down when you're ready. Back to dog pose. Now, second time around to this posture, how does it feel? Relax your neck. Breathing in. Steady breath out. Inhale, come forward into our core. Or into a plank, but use your core. Start to feel the transverse abdominis kick into gear. We're going to do some subtleties around this in a moment, but for now, just feel the global support. And then come down to the ground. Gentle back bend. Don't give it everything you got. Let your spine warm up nicely without overdoing. Come back down. Stretch the legs. Engage the core. Open up your chest. The glutes are strong, but not over strong. One more time. Keep the spine long. Front and back body support each other. And then release. come back onto all fours. Find your breath. One of the greatest things about breathing well, the diaphragmatic breathing that we're trying to do, come back to child's pose, is the diaphragm becomes like a second pump for your heart. So of course your heart's pumping all your blood, but the diaphragm pumps and supports the heart. It just gives this squeeze and release to the entire thorax, which includes your heart and lungs. So know that by breathing well, you're doing great things for your nervous system, great things for your oxygenation and carbon dioxide exchange, and great things for your heart. All right, we're going to come over onto our back. I forgot to mention this. This is called an MR ball. It's very deflated. If any of you have a Gertie ball or a muscle release ball, go grab it because this will be a really good thing to use. I have this pretty deflated. It's very easy to take the pin out and inflate it up to a ball or deflate it. So if you do have one and are going to work with one, you're going to have it pretty deflated for what we're doing. Okay. And if you don't have one, that's okay. You can just do this on the ground. It just adds more challenge if you have this ball underneath you. So a few things we're going to do. First things first, we're going to lie down on our back. And this is all to help us learn how to use our core. We're about to do a sequence of core stability exercises. So if you're using the muscle release ball or the Gertie ball, stick it underneath your sacrum. And you want to have it deflated enough that you don't feel like you're going to slide off of it, that it's challenging your balance, but it's not overwhelming your balance. Okay, so as deflated as you want it to be. And if you're on the ground, that's fine too. All right, we're going to start by picking our knees up. Arms are off to the sides. So a lot of times when we do core work, we kind of rush right through it. And it's like, sit up, sit up, sit up, crunch, crunch, crunch. And I want you to think much more slowly while we do some of these exercises. So first, just decide how close or far away you want your knees to be. So don't go past. You can go a teeny bit past knees over pelvis, but don't go, really far. So we're not trying to overstress our core, we're trying to engage. So on the exhales, feel your Hulu breath. You're not going to be able to release all the way on your inhales. So where does the breath go? It has to go into the ribs. You have to move the ribs out to the sides as you do things like this. Find the breath. And then we're going to release the feet back down on the ground. So hopefully that woke up your core a little bit. Another thing you can try is putting a block between your legs for this first round. We won't use the block the whole time, but for this first round of things, if you want to have a block at whatever width you want it to have, this can help your stabilization. And it kind of kicks into gear some of the lower fibers of your belly. So the low fibers of your TA can be activated a little bit better with the knees up in between, or block in between the knees. All right, so now we're going to lift our arms up, kind of like a reverse tabletop. Imagine the floor. We don't have to have our hands flat. You can have your hands however you want them to be. Find the breath. And we're going to move our right arm out to the side, trying to not let the pelvis move in any way. And then back to center. If you're on the muscle release ball, this is not easy. Okay, this to stabilize the pelvis takes a fair amount of concentration and work. And if you're on the floor, it's definitely easier, but see if you can notice the subtle shifts that your pelvis wants to do as you move your arm one out to the side and back. All right, now we're going to move one arm up overhead and then back. I have a couch running in my way, so I can't keep my arms straight, but if you can, go for it. How is your breath? All right, now we're going to take two hands overhead and just see how you do. How's your breath? All right, and then let's put our feet down, get the block out of there. Big belly breath. Notice how when you belly breathe, so you can knock your knees or split your knees out. When you belly breathe, your diaphragm and your TA totally relax. So big belly breath. All right. So you can, just move your legs around a little bit, let some of that release. Once again, if you're on the muscle release ball, this is harder. And if you're on the floor, it's not simple either. All right, we're going to bring our knees out away from each other, so away from the midline, and place your fingers at the outer knees or outer thighs, depending on how wide your legs end up going out to the side. Will depend on where you land your fingers. But if you can go super far out, be very careful. You don't want to, have knees really close to the floor or anything. Okay, and we're going to very subtly. So the reason to keep your fingers there is so that you're not moving your knees in and out. We want our knees to stay in external rotation, our hips to stay in external rotation. And we're going to point our toes, and we're going to take our toes toward each other and then out. So we're taking 2 circles, concentric circles, moving toward each other with our feet, not letting our knees move. Once again, if you're on the muscle release ball, this is a little bit more challenging than if you are on the floor. But either way, see if you can start to feel some subtleties of your deep hip flexors and your transverse abdominis. You can make these circles tiny, so try putting your feet closer together and make tiny circles, and then get a little bigger, and just see. You can make your circles uber slow. You can make your circles faster. Try not to let your thighs change their orientation. So we're keeping our fingertips there to help us stay in alignment and not letting our knees come in and out. All right, and relax. If you're on the muscle release ball, come off for a minute. We're not quite done, but just stretch your legs, stretch your arms, enjoy the ease. Big belly breath. Notice how connected your hip flexors and your transverse abdominis is. Okay, so we're back here, and if you want to put the muscle release ball back underneath you, great. There's 2 different ways about going about this, depending on how stable you feel your back is. You can start in our tabletop position, and then you can tap one foot down, toe or heel, and back, and then go to the other side. This is a little harder. If you feel like you're fatigued and your back is bothering you, you can start with your feet on the ground and lift one knee up and drop it back down. Now, this may seem simple. You may be like, wait, I'm having my feet on the ground. I'm just lifting my knee up and back down. But if you really slow this movement down, whether you're starting at tabletop or starting with your feet down, if you slow this movement down, there is a whole lot going on. So see if you can sense into what is stabilizing you and making it so that your pelvis does not shift around. How are you breathing? As your neck and shoulders, do you have tension? Are you trying to do the posture with your neck and shoulders? Melt as best as you can. Make sure your TA is hugging those organs down to your spine. Find your breath. And then bring your knees into your chest or lay your legs straight out. Whatever you're doing, take a deep breath. I have one more to do, one more little exercise to do. There's so many variations on how to strengthen your TA. This is a little bit more, we're on the ground today, so it's a little bit different than some other positions. We're going to start in this reverse tabletop one more time. And once again, if you're on these muscle release balls, and they're not expensive, by the way, you can get like a set of 2 for $10. And they're really great for working with your core. They add a deep element to what you're doing here. All right, so now we're going to straighten one leg up. I have to do this from a different plane. I'll hit my foot. Okay. So we're going to straighten one leg up, and your arms can be anywhere you want. They do not have to be up in the air. They can be down at your sides or out. And we're just going to drop one leg down and then lift that leg back up. Okay, and try doing 3 or 4 or 5 on each side. The more, you can whip through this and just like do it really fast and very unaware of the deep work that's really happening. So try to slow things down so you can really feel into the core of your body. How's your breath? Let's switch sides when you're ready. Like that. So, when we have our limbs extending away from our core instead of close to our core, it adds challenge. It's just leverage, right? Physics. When the lever is further away from the center point, it's a lot more strength that's required. So can you feel the difference just in having a straight leg versus when we did this before with a bent knee? So you can either do this like I am with my other foot on the floor. You can also do this with your other foot in reverse tabletop. Okay, so lots of choices. Let's bring the knees back into the chest and rock side to side. Open the knees up. Come into Supta Baddha Konasana. We're going to get up now, so just come into Supta Baddha Konasana for a moment. Breathe into the belly. Let the hips stretch, hip flexors stretch a little bit. Deep belly breath. All right, then let's release. Roll over onto your side and come up onto your hands and your knees. If you never let your belly go, so start into some cat-cows. If you're always tense in your core, sucking it in, creating that Mula Bandha in the pelvic floor and Uddiyana Bandha in your diaphragm, if you never let it go, this will actually weaken your TA, and it will also strain your heart and your lungs. So we don't want to have no mobility in our diaphragm. We want to have the TA and the diaphragm dance together. So feel this now. When you inhale, let your belly go. Feel the belly release. All right, now come back to a little bit of stability. We're going to stretch our limbs away from the midline. So the left leg is going to stretch out straight back behind us. Engage your core. Pulse a couple of times so you're kicking in your glutes as well. Find that strength. And if you have the ability, stretch your other arm overhead or out to the side or back. So find what's here. So as you exhale, feel that core stability. As you inhale, relax just a bit. We can't let go of the core entirely when we're active in our efforts, but we can have a little bit of wave of that. Recommit to the core strength and then release. Feel the back body and the front body work together. So remember, your transverse abdominis wraps around your whole core. All right, great. And then place that hand and knee down onto the ground and come into the second side. Leg first. Once you get the leg stability, lift the arm wherever you're going to be. Try not to let the hips go wonked. You don't want one hip higher than the other. Of course, your glutes will be activated differently from left and right, but feel that your sacrum is balanced. Engage your core, especially on the exhales. Find that. And then let's come back to the first side and we're going to create movement here. So extend and lengthen your limbs. Exhale, engage in elbow and knee coming toward each other. Inhale, pulse that out. Feel the back body support you along with the front. Exhale. And don't worry, you don't have to bring your elbow and knee all the way into touch. Sometimes I do this with only a little bit of movement so you can really feel where your core is curling in and where your back is strengthening when you reach out. So find that balance of the front and the back body as you move. How's your core strength with the breath? And then let's change sides. Limbs out, lengthen, exhale. You can draw elbow and knee close And then reach them out, or you can just go a little bit in and see if you can feel the hip and the shoulder move toward each other. And then rebound with the back body supporting you. So when we stretch our limbs far away from our midline, it requires a lot of support to hold us there. So feel that airbag sensation of the core against the spine. And then release, 2 hands down onto the ground. Come up to dog pose. Deep breath in, deep breath away. So the belly is a little bit different shape in this posture because we're upside down. The diaphragm returns to the thorax a little bit more easily. All right, and then walk your feet forward and come into Uttanasana. Go ahead and shake. Inhale, all the way up. Big breath, and release. Roll your shoulders a few times. All right, and then when we're here in Tadasana, do you feel a little more stable in your core? Is your core holding you a little more snugly? Stand on your right foot, tip out to the side. This is a different plane of movement than just flexion and extension. So feel, can your core stabilize you here? All in, stretching away from the midline, hug back in toward the center. And then release. Notice your breath. Notice what your neck and shoulders want to do. See if you can come into the other side with some relaxed neck and shoulders. And if you bring your arms up and your neck and shoulders freak out, bring your arms out so that you have a chance to really hug from the center instead of hugging from your neck. How's your balance? Relax. Where's your Hulu breath on the exhales? And then come back to center. Arms up again. Release and melt back down. While you're down there, grab your block. Stick it between your thighs. For chair pose, we're going to go through some movement in our chair. So just like in that bird dog, where we were kind of hugging in and then reaching our limbs out, we're going to do the same thing in a little bit of moving chairs. So come into Utkatasana and then reach up under your tippy toes. Reach your arms. Don't worry if you don't go very high. Exhale, heels down. Hug toward the midline, toward the center body. Inhale, reach away up onto your tippy toes. And then come into a full chair again, hands down. This time we're going to stay on our heels, but we're going to reach our arms out. Can you have both the front core and the back core supporting you? Try to think that this transverse abdominis wraps around and that the muscles along your spine are just as supportive for your spine as the muscles in the front of your spine. So feel front and back body support. Arms go anywhere. Find your Hu breath on the exhales. All right, now press your hands forward in front of you. Remind yourself of that reverse tabletop work we did on the floor. And then last time, reaching the arms up onto your tippy toes, arms up. Exhale and fold forward. Relax your body. Big belly breaths. Keep the block there. Let's step back to a plank. All right, so here we are back, and our limbs are not one doing one thing and one doing another thing. We're more centered. We have the symmetry, so feel into that support. And then if you can, come down onto your forearms. You can always put your knees down. There's lots of ways. Doing this pose with your knees down is very, very good. You can still work with the core even if your knees are supporting your shoulders a little bit. If your knees are up, just see what it feels like to have that center support. Hu breaths on the exhale. All right, and And come onto your hands and your knees. Have a round of a cat-cow, whatever feels good. Stabilize with the block. Now put the block between your shins for a moment. Find your breath. Reach your right arm out to the side. Try to keep your pelvis stable. Gently hug the block. Relax your neck and shoulders. And then release that hand back. Out to the side. What's happening with the shins on the floor? Do you have even weight? Hug the block. Exhale. And release. Curl your toes under and lift to dog pose with the block between your shins. Big belly breath. All right, and then let's waddle, waddle, waddle your feet in. Keep the block between your shins for a moment. Inhale and rise up onto your tippy toes. And then relax. Take the block out of there. We're going to do this with a piece of furniture or a wall. You decide. And we're going to come into half dog first. Okay, feeling that extension, having your feet underneath your pelvis. And then we're going to stand on our right foot and reach your left leg straight back behind you. I'll do the same issue, same side. So reach that left leg straight, and don't worry if your leg's a little bit lower, but the most important thing you want to do is not collapse the spine. So lift the rib cage into the body, push off the wall, engage your glutes, square the hips, feel the sacrum balance. Find your Hulu Breath. Neck and shoulders are relaxed. Try not to grip the neck and shoulders in this movement. And let's put that foot down onto the ground. Take a breath and switch sides. So as we come into this, stretching through your right leg in the air, square the hips, inner spiral that thigh. Try not to let the ribs fall. Integrate into the center of your body. Press the wall away. It's very easy to let that hip hike up. See if you can keep it balanced. Your limbs are so far away from your midline, so feel the work of the core to have to support you in the front and the back of your body. And then put your foot down and come back to the front of your mat. Deep breath in, open things up. Exhale, fold forward. Last standing poses we'll do. Step your right foot forward, left foot back. Come up into Vira 1. Back heel comes down onto the ground. Tip your head back. Exhale, release your hands forward or backward or out to the sides. So we've experimented with a lot of positions away from the midline. Find what your body can support. And then when you're ready, we're reaching up into Virabhadrasana 3. So obviously, if your arms are back behind you, this is going to be a lot more stable than if your arms are out in front of you. So only go where your body goes. And remember also that you don't have to be parallel to the floor. Your pose can be right here. It can be right here. There can be, so the key is we're not buckling in our back. We're trying to keep that line solid from our crown to our feet. Use your core, use your Hulu Breath. And then back, Vira 1 again. Back foot comes forward, Tadasana. Up under the tippy toes, reach the arms up. Heels down, step your foot back, lunge. Plant the heel down onto the ground. Rise up, Vira 1, decide, do you want your arms up? Do you want your arms down? Do you want to lean forward a little bit? Where are you best able to use your center body to support you? How far away can your limbs go from your center before you lose that stability? Let's find our pathway into Vira 3. Arms can be back, arms can be out, palms can be at your center, arms can be overhead. Your leg, you do not have to go very far. You can just be tipped forward a teeny bit. The key here is to not buckle the back. Feel the crown, tail, foot alignment. Feel your core, front back core. Hulu breath. How are your neck and shoulders? Are they trying to take over? Back into Vira 1. Arms come up. Exhale, hands down. Last dog pose. Enjoy this. Stay inside the breath. Come down into child's pose and relax. Deep breath in. Deep breath away. Come onto your back. Grab your block and put it underneath your pelvis on the low height. You can go higher if that feels better to your body. Find your breath. Let your belly rise and fall. All right, knees into your chest. Let's open the knees and bring them back in. A little bit of traction for the spine. Maybe you want to lift your legs up. Maybe you want to cross one thigh over the thigh and pull your knees in. And just decide, take your practice now where you want to take it as we wind down for Shavasana shortly. Follow your intuition. Follow your somatic sensation. What does your body want? Feel free to come right off that block. Feel free to do any posture that your body is asking for. A twist, a happy baby, anything at all. All right, and then as you see yourself ready, as you feel complete, find Shavasana. Decide how far away you want your limbs to be. And before you really, melt away in this posture, take a moment to focus on some belly breathing. Letting your belly rise and fall. Your pelvic floor swell and release. And you get the sense that there's all sorts of room. Someone described this to me like taking your sleeping bag out of its stuff sack and leaving it in a big open case to air out the down of your sleeping bag. Air out the down of your belly. And if any of you backpack, you know that you don't store your sleeping bag in a compression sack when you're not using it. You store your sleeping bag in a big loose bag when you're not using it. So same with your TEA. When you're not required to have all this abdominal strength that we required of ourselves in class, can you air it out? Can you free it up? Can you breathe deeply into the belly? So let your Shavasana be about letting go, the Hulu breath, instead of pursed lips and kind of having that controlled support, maybe let go through an open mouth, a nice easy throat. Let all of your diaphragms, your throat, Jalandhara Bandha, your Uddiyana Bandha, your diaphragm, and your Mula Bandha, your pelvic floor, let all the gates open. Be free. Relax your neck and shoulders. Soften the skull into the ground. Melt your face. Ease, ease. What can get heavier? Can you welcome gravity? Welcome your heaviness. Let's begin to deepen our breathing again. Let your body fully melt for a moment. Gently find some movement. And eventually coming onto your side. There's no rush to go anywhere. So come to a comfortable seat. Have a big belly breath now, so no more restraint, no more neck and shoulders. Just let your belly release. And then come into a little bit of that core support, just enough, just the least amount necessary to support yourself. Let's offer our practice. Send your love and care outward. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.